Marko.
Thank you, Brent, again. Certainly glad to be here, and I appreciate anyone coming during this time. It's a very, very hectic time on campus with students being advised and people advising them, etc. So I appreciate your presence. This presentation on the Holocaust in Ukraine and the Catholic Church was put together initially in the summer as part of the Calvin Christian Summer Scholar Seminar on Religion and Genocide. And that it's come out of that. Actually, mostly all the work has been done then. I've gotten very little done since then. There are a few things I've added to this. My interest in the particular subject really arose, the Holocaust in Ukraine specifically, arose in 2007 when I visited the remnants and reconstruction of Jewish cemeteries and synagogues in Halichina, or Eastern Galicia, sometimes called Western Ukraine. During my experience as a volunteer teacher of English in the village of Strilki in the Carpathian Mountains. There was an English summer school, and I was part of that experience. Let me show you some slides specifically of that. This is the way you do it. All right. Some of these are mine and others are not. But if you look at that area, one of the things that really struck me as I visited different places like Samber was the number of cemeteries, most of which were in complete disrepair. A few had been repaired, but if you see the area, it was incredible. There's another one, another slide, the third one. It's not really focused well, but you get the picture there. I returned to Ukraine, as you know, in 2008 for Fulbright, and I taught Eastern Christian social ethics at Ukrainian Catholic University. And it was during that experience that I was struck when hearing Brown professor Omar Bartiv declare at an October 2008 conference on Jewish urban life held in Lviv, that some people's heroes are other people's murderers. What Professor Bartov was referring to, he's an outspoken author of the book Erased, which vanishing traces of Jewish Galicia in present-day Ukraine. What Bartov was speaking about was essentially the denial of the Holocaust in this area. And his book is very well known. There's some problems with his thesis is sound. There are some problems with some of the research. One of which I'll allude to later is that he doesn't know Ukrainian. He knows Yiddish and German and English, of course, and Russian, but he didn't know Ukrainian, so that was one of the critiques. But his thesis was found by scholars over there to be right on. What Bartov was referring to was what was known as the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, the UPA. This group, or this army, was both anti-Soviet, anti-Russian, and I'm using the two synonymous, or not to be used synonymously here, the anti-Russian as well as anti-German army that appeared during World War II to support Ukrainian nationalism. During the question and answer period, Bartov even added that while anti-Semitism, which supported genocide, is not necessarily true of all Ukraine, it is characteristic of the west of Ukraine. So his claim essentially this is that Western Ukrainians are notoriously anti-Semitic. And unlike some areas which were part of Soviet Ukraine later, this was the hotbed. Certainly it was the hotbed of nationalism, and I'll say more about that later. But whether it was the hotbed of all anti-Semitism is really a debatable topic. We can look at that later. Bartov, his voice was not the only one I heard at that conference. There was other voices heard. One was by Leonid Feinberg of Kiev's Peter Mahala National University that responded during the same question and answer period that his Judaic Institute was publishing Kurt, born Isaac, Lewin's work, A Journey Through Illusions, which presents a very different picture of Western Ukraine. Lewin asserts that Metropolitan Andrei Sheptypsky, who is really the focus of my work, Galicia's most recognizable religious leader, should actually become called the righteous of the nations because of his work in saving Jews. The day after that conference went for 3 days, I participated in my host university's student Rada or council march to commemorate the 90th anniversary of the very short-lived Western Ukrainian National Republic that began in October 1918. I found myself among young Ukrainian patriots and old Ukrainian patriots. They're very interesting. There are people that are as old as Remington here, and myself, and then there were a lot of kids. All right. So you have this very interesting group. And nationalists of all ages. I recall seeing a few skinheads, young skinheads, and the World War II UPA flag. It's red and black. It's very well known. A symbol to some, certainly to Jews, of the Holocaust. I remarked to a young philosophy student, Petro, with whom I marched, I said, Boże mi, my God, do we have Hitler Youth here? So these two experiences very much stuck in my mind. I'm going to give you some slides of this. Here's the symbol for the Jewish Urban Studies Center in Western Ukraine in Lviv. And I stole it offline somehow or copied the conference that I went to. And there are two perspectives there. Bartov's perspective I mentioned already, and then Feinberg's perspective. Bartov is often taken on by Holocaust scholars. Although they agree with him, it's generally the style. I mentioned to someone, Glenn put me in contact with a professor at Grand Valley State. I said, like the present Bishop of Rome, he doesn't have a PR man, all right? So it causes some problems for people. All right, here he is. Here's Omer Bartov. Here's his book. Actually, a great book. I picked it up at the Holocaust Museum when my kid was graduating from American University Law School, 2007, I think. When did he? 2007. It just came out. And here's the book on Metropolitan Andre, Kurt Lewin's book. All right. All right. Two things came to me that particular week. One is this Ukrainian kind of nationalism, and you see it here. Huh? This is a march. This I got from a Soviet site, a Russian site. And they said the lackeys of the Imperial West. It sounds like the lackeys of the Imperial West, something Ho Chi Minh would say. And they're marching in. They were marching both in support of the 1918 Republic, as well as the involvement in World War II. These are the old Ukrainians marching. This is a copy of the 1918 Republic, some of the fighters. If you know something historically, well, Gano and Panero and Duncan, you know something historically. All right, if you know something historically during 1918, 1919, after Versailles, particularly from 1919 to about 21, there was the conflict. Poland got Galicia from Austria-Hungary. And there was fighting between Ukrainians and Poles. Actually, the area is fascinating because you have cities. The city that I was in in 2007 and 2008, Lviv, was in the 1930s 50% Polish, 30% Jewish, and only 20% Ukrainian. After World War II and after the forced Soviet transplanting of population, it is 90-some% Ukrainian. But the area, I mean, it's amazing to me. You look at this area that was, here's this. This to me is real Ukrainian nationalism. The positivist thing I had, this was me at summer school with the students. I was the oldest and the dumbest of the lot. Like General Custard, if they did in West Point, if they did graduation, and by who was the slowest. I actually was the last one to get my diploma. I think she liked me, the teacher. She felt sorry for me. But here are some of the students I was with in language school. Here's a famous scene that I used in every magazine I can. This is myself in 2007. I look skinnier then with some students. This is good for advertising. Aquinas plays this up when they when they do any kind of public stuff, because you got a nun there. All right, she got a veil on. All right, Alice, you see what they're doing? They play this up like crazy. All right, on my right is one of the students from a Polish, a Ukrainian area borderland, and some other students. One's a monk, Mykola, but I'm not to go through that. Okay, all right. Okay, so two things came to me in that way. One is what I became deeply aware in reading the August of 2008, Patrick Dubois' book, The Holocaust by Bullets. I was alerted to that book by two colleagues, Glenn and Suzanne Gaster, who had saw it in New York Times, and the research of Patrick Dubois. Patrick Dubois is a French priest. I'll show you more about him later. Actually, there's a short clip in here, if it works, on Dubois' work. Second, my experience of Galicia's strong Ukrainian nationalism was intensified. I paid closer attention to my experience of visiting the remnants of Jewish quarters, synagogues, and cemeteries in Ukraine. That week initiated a desire to cross the Polish border in November and visit Krakow and the Jewish district there, as well as Auschwitz-Birkenau. Actually, when my son came from Spain, he wasn't on sabbatical. He was on a language trip, and he came over from Spain, and we met in Krakow and did both experiences. It was a very moving experience to be in both places. I've seen concentration camps before in Dachau, but that was nothing like Birkenau. I mean, Dachau was minor. After that lengthy introduction, let me try to tell you what I want to do today. I want to address 3 points. First, observations of what happened. This is the Holocaust for bullets. And the heyday of this was the invasion by the Germans of the former Soviet lands in June 22nd, 1941. And the heyday of the Holocaust by bullets lasted for about 18 months. So I want to do first that. Secondly, I want to look at the scholarship. It's developing. There's a developing scholarship there, and there's reasons for that and why it has not been prominent in Holocaust studies. I am not a Holocaust scholar. I'm learning something about it, and I've had some experience and some exposure to it. But clearly, this whole area of Eastern Europe has developed, and in the former Soviet lands since 1990, after 91, after the breakup and dissolution of the Soviet Empire, so to speak. Thirdly, I want to say something about the role of the church. And my focus will be on not the Roman Church, but something that I've been studying for the last few years, which is the Eastern Church, and particularly, specifically in the Ukrainian Greco-Catholic Church. So rather than focusing on Roman Catholics or Orthodox or Protestants, I'm going to focus on the Greco-Catholic Church. The World War II Nazi Holocaust scholar Karol Burkhoff wrote in his book, The Harvest of Despair, that evangelical Christians and the Baptists were the best at offering refuge to Jews. I mean, we know this certainly in terms of the French experience, right? You got the French Calvinists, the Huguenot communities who were very, very good in rescuing Jews. Interesting enough, and this actually surprised me in Burkhoff's book, is that those communities themselves were favored by the Germans over both the Orthodox, these are smaller communities, over the Orthodox. And in the case of the Orthodox, what the Nazis tended to do was they played on their jurisdictional disputes and rivalry. I thought I saw Laura here. Is Laura here? Laura Schumann, yeah. As you know, Laura, that's all kind of, who's on first takes a while to understand in that context. So they played on the rivalries of the different Orthodox groups. So they actually favored the Protestants, despite the fact that they were the best, the Protestants here being evangelical Christians and Baptists, they were the best at rescuing individuals. Their enemy, of course, was the Catholic Church. Both the Roman Catholic Poles and the Greek Catholic Ukrainians. These were most persecuted. In western Volhynia alone, 16 Polish priests were killed rather quickly as soon as they came in. Holocaust scholars have noted, and I remember this in a seminar, I remember that generally, the fact is that the Catholic Church did not drop the ball completely on this. It did drop the ball to a large degree. No question about it. We certainly know the research on the debate, the debate on Pius XII. But I think it was the transnational nature. If you want to analyze this in political terms, and for some of you, most of you, probably this is the only terms you know. So if you look at that in terms of political terms, as in our culture, I think the claim of a power outside of the nation state, which characterized Catholicism, is what may partly attribute to the hostility towards a particular Catholic Church. But my focus is going to be only on the Greco part. Okay. All right, what happened? Let me show you some slides in this area of both the geography of the area and share with you two, I think, interesting reflections. All right, here, this is part of this. You look at the area. I've shown this before in another context, but this gives you the area here, right? This is the area. This is the area kind of we're talking about here. All right, we're looking at this area here. This is the area of the West Ukrainian Republic. City of Lviv, St. Yuri, and some stuff here. A partition of Poland, all right. And our focus will be Sheptypsky. Here he is. Here's a neat photo, neat looking guy. Interesting enough, when Ukrainians look at the Holocaust, they're referring to the genocide, the forced famine of 32-33. So if you kind of Google this, there, and notice the numbers, the repeated numbers for Jews was 6 million, right? I mean, that's generally the standard number. And this number, they put at 7 million. So it's part of a thing. We had it worse than you, and I've heard this from students, actually. We had it worse than you, and this and that, and the Jews, etc. Okay. All right. And let me share two reflections with you. The first is from Paul Shapiro, who's director of the Center for Advanced Holocaust Studies at the Holocaust Museum. Before German bureaucrats met in early 1942 at Wannsee outside Berlin to elaborate plans for the deportation and mechanized murder of European Jewry in extermination camps, before the Birkenau killing center opened near Auschwitz, before Treblinka, Sobibor, Velzik, Majdanek and assumed their full fury, before all of this, hundreds of thousands of Jews, from a number that would quickly grow to over 1.5 billion. The numbers will go probably higher than that, had already been murdered by the Germans, their Axis allies, and local collaborators in the towns and villages of Ukraine, Belarus, and other republics of the USSR. We're pretty much familiar. The film and book Defiance, some of you have seen that, dealt with the area of Belarus. What you have here is something is a cover from Everything is Illuminated, which is a very popular film on this area. I want to share another perspective, and this is mentioned by Dubois in his book. And it's a testimony given by a woman in 2007, Polina Pavlovna Kotsenko. And here's how Dubois both describes her and quotes her. She is frail and slight in her red sweater and yellow headscarf. She is sitting at a table covered with a waxed tablecloth with flowers. Any of you remember those waxed tablecloths? Any of you remember them? Okay. And her little blue eyes sparked with intelligence as she speaks. When I was 14, I joined the Red Army as a nurse and accompanied the troops all the way to Central Asia. The German fascists started to lose. Then my Army Corps entered Poland and went to Krakow. I found myself close to Auschwitz, a big camp that had been built to kill the Jews. I wrote a report that was read in the Kolbasses, the collective farms. Where we come from, the Nazi machine gunned the Jews, but in the West, they killed them in camps. So as you know, it is specifically in this area that the Holocaust first occurs, the mass murder of the Jews. Let me share, I think, a very interesting piece with, I can escape this, right? Where's Mark? Okay, let me share something with you. And this is in YouTube. All right, let me go back to the right one. There are two of them I have here. There was a special that National Geographic did. I don't have access to it. I tried online to find it, but I did see it on National Geographic which was entitled something when they produced it called Hitler's Hidden Holocaust. They have some scholars from the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum who were kind of key folks in this, and I want to show you this. This one deals. This is a short selection from YouTube on this. It'll give you. I think it'll set very, very well the historical context. Okay, let me find this and I make this.
We're back with NBC News In Depth tonight. It's some extraordinary reporting by our friend and colleague Ann Curry. It's a story of a kind of invisible part of the Holocaust where more than 1 million Jews simply disappeared. It is difficult to watch, but so is a lot of the history of our world, and Ann is here tonight to join us. Ann, what can you tell us?
Thank you so much, Brian. Well, in fact, this is stunning new information about an unknown part of the Holocaust. We're learning in detail now what happened to 1.3 million Jews who simply disappeared in Ukraine between 1941 and 1944 because one man refuses to forget them. Fair warning, as Brian just mentioned, some of the images we're about to show you are hard to watch.
А діти брали за руки так. І кинули, да. Яму. Живих, да.
Як іду, корови доїть, як бачу, що вони тих дітей б'ють і тих сімей.
Я вам могу показать это место, где было. Поедем, покажу.
In remote village after village, men and women revealing for the first time the horror they witnessed as children 60 years ago to a determined Catholic priest going door to door to uncover a truth about the Holocaust few know. As a boy in France, Father Patrick Desbois was haunted by his grandfather's silence when asked to describe being imprisoned in a Ukrainian labor camp during World War II.
He only said, inside the camp it was awful, but outside the camp it was worse.
Now he's gathered more than 600 oral histories, uncovering more than 700 mass graves in Ukraine so far.
We found that in the ground near the mass grave.
The evidence displayed at the Shoah Museum in Paris.
Oh my gosh, yes, right there.
And when
Boy shows German troops forcing Jewish families to give up everything.
they know they will be shot.
She is a child. She is a child. And this is
This
a
one
child.
also, she has a child.
Hundreds of thousands systematically shot. To save bullets, eyewitnesses said, some were forced into graves alive.
This man is telling you that the grave was moving.
All Ukrainians do that. The graves were moving because the Jews were still alive.
Возле меня стояла, я...
Nina told Father Desbois she was only 5 when she was pushed into a mass grave.
Что я цеплялась за коряги и вылез.
Some will say that your evidence is based on aging people with failing memory.
We use the method of converging proof. Soviet archive, German archive, testimony of the witness, research of bullets.
Що було, синок, то я все розказав.
Щоб війни не було.
Да.
If we don't establish the proof, other killers can decide to do the same.
A priest documenting the loss of the voiceless.
It's my prayer to say to God, remember David, Yitzhak, Tanya, remember what happens.
Driven by an echo from his own childhood,
What would your grandfather say about what you have done? I think he would be very, very proud.
so that no crime against humanity goes unheard. And Father Desbois says it is possible his research could revise upward the number of Jews
That is
lost.
Dubois. That was not the one I wanted to show you, but that's all right. I'm terrible at this. The one I don't know how it. No, this is the one I wanted to show, but that's all right. All right. The one I want to show you is different, and I may show you that later. But this is Dubois. The one that from the National Geographic was different, but I'll show that later. I'll show you some pieces of it later. Which one on top? This one, before death camp. All right. All right. That will introduce you, I think, somewhat to the topic, and then what I want to do is show you before the death camps and what is just some of the slides. These are actually very disturbing as I collected these during the period. Let's get back to here, right? I can go back to here. This goes back, right? I tap. How do I do this? Here? PowerPoint? All right. This is from Everything is Illuminated. I should probably make this big, right? You make it big by slide. Setup. This one? Left. One more. Ah, very good. Okay. All right. This will give you, this is from Everything is Illuminated. Some of you may have seen that, the film. Have you seen that? Actually, there's a kind of rapper from New York. You'd appreciate this, Dixon, who actually is a radio DJ, among other things, who was involved in the process. These are just some slides of the area. Germans coming in, as I mentioned to you, June 22nd, 1941, moving into the area. This will show you the groups. Now, as our historians here will tell you, this was under the general government of the Reich in this area because it was part of Poland, which was then part of kind of annexed by Germany, in a certain sense, the area I'm looking at. So the Einstütze group of C were here, this group, but these were some of the groups. And I actually have some handouts of this. Will show you who's what. All right. This will show you Eastern Europe at this time and German-controlled territory, right? So when you look at the Holocaust, you're talking about this, and this would be considered to be. I mean, the term itself, is it Ukrainian or Polish? Well, it was under Poland, And then the Soviets come back in 41. It was interesting. Thank God for John Panero, because sometimes the bleeding heart liberal in me makes my head cave in. But John, I mentioned, I sent an email from the Holocaust Museum remember the one about the 1939, September 1st, the invasion of Poland by the Nazis? And John retorts, also at that time there was an invasion of Poland by the Soviet Union. He's absolutely right. So in other words, what happened is, the Soviet Union began to move all into this area too. So they began to take it, and actually the present day Ukraine is the border of present day Ukraine is what it is because of the Soviet Union annexation of this area. Okay, so you have this here. All right. This is interesting because there was a group of Galician SS. All right, they're part of the units. There is a group of them, and there's a piece here. You can see this. This actually has. I was amazed that some kids actually were very much impressed by this. I'll show you a slide later on of one of my students with whom I've had dinner with him and his parents, and he was in a Soviet film which kind of essentially praised this. All right, okay, let me get out here. You'll notice this. This was a unit. So there were, during World War II, there were Ukrainians. Now, I've read a Ukrainian piece that suggested that this number of Galician SS, first of all, they said many were Russian, and secondly, I don't know, the stats on this is very interesting, and I should not raise this in Western Michigan, but they said there were 3 times as many Dutch as there were Ukrainians in these kind of groups, but that may not be accurate given the source. All right, here's interesting because you have a priest there who is congratulating or shaking the hands of the Nazis, and this did occur. And I'll say more about that. But basically, because the Metropolitan Andre sent chaplains to everybody. All right, here are you'll find the extermination concentration camps, cities with ghettos at this time. Lviv, of course, Chernivtsi, a few other places. These are not okay. The extermination and concentration camps are all in. It says in Dubois' work that this was in Ukraine. Well, it was not in Ukraine at that time. It was in Poland, Belgium, where his grandpap was. So there were actually none in Ukraine. They did it the old-fashioned way with bullets. All right. This is a Jewish synagogue in Lviv. I've seen the remnants of this. There's an area that's been dug up. This is also Lviv. There's a Polish church here, but the synagogue area is around here. This is not uncommon. So when the Germans came in, actually with some Ukrainian militia help, there were some immediately there were pogroms. Another example, and these would be militia. All right, here are some scenes of people being forced to undress before they're being shot. A shooting. Very common scene. Actually, was Brenda here? Remember, you saw that yesterday on another book, a book by Michael Perry, right? This is not an uncommon scene. There's a collection. The Germans did not destroy this stuff. They didn't destroy all. They tried to destroy what they did is they tried to cover up their tracks when they left. The Nazis left, but the photos were kept. And here's an example. And as Dubois points out, the earth would move for days because people were not dead. Here again, standing to be shot. It's very disturbing. Actually, I had very painful dreams a couple nights after some of this experience in the summer. Here, movement. This is Baba Yar, and we'll say more about that later, the famous site outside a cave. This is another famous shot. This is generally the way you do it, one bullet to one person. Of movement, I have notes on this. I'm not going to give you this. And this is the roundup. Everybody's to report to this area. Okay, this is a very moving photo for me, and it's actually one that the woman and her child. It's just people being forced to undress, the shootings. All right, deportation. All right. Here are some of the boundaries. These are the people that are being taken off. Again, you can see that many people were sent west. But generally, the way it was employed in this area, to a large degree, was just by bullets. All right, we'll get to this in a minute. But all right, let me show you how. Let me just go back to. I can get back here, I think, then, huh? This is now YouTube. No, I don't want this one. This is the one I want. Before death camps. Let me show you this. This is actually much better than me talking, so I'll just show this to you. This is the one that I mentioned. I wanted to initially show you. And how do I make this big? Here? That one, good. Now, why doesn't the voice work on this?
There were three major problems with this killing operation that were problems not for the victims, but that were problems for the perpetrator. The first, it was public. The second was that it was too personal. And then finally, the problem with this was it was a waste of bullets.
Heinrich Himmler was horrified. He had found it easy to order other people to kill. But to be in the presence of people being shot in large numbers into a pit and to hear their screaming and moaning and see their writhing was more than he could stomach. And he started running around hysterically screaming, "Kill them quickly, kill them quickly." And this was just about the time when the decision came to move the Jews of Western Europe, which followed directly from the United States joining the war as the result of Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. That's when Himmler said, okay, the gloves are off, basically. And they began to think about moving all the Jews of Western Europe.
real story is not the numbers killed, but all the Jews of town after town, village after village. It's Maishala and Shloimela, it's Chanala and Rivkala, it's Leila. It's family by family, person by person, one by one by one, bullet by bullet by bullet.
Okay. That's part of that National Geographic piece that I mentioned to you, which I think is very good. And I can get out of here, I guess, right? By hitting escape. All right, good. And what, escape again? No? Down to PowerPoint. Okay, good. All right. Secondly, I'd like to say something very quickly about the research that's going on in the Holocaust in Ukraine. I think it's very slow. Let me get back. I do this right from current slide. Good. And then hit this. There's no question about that. I'm going to try to skip some of this, but if you look at some works that particularly deal with the Holocaust and the churches, I think of Michael Fayer's book on the Holocaust and the Catholic Church. It gives no attention at all to it. Daniel Jonah Goldhagen, the one who wrote that interesting book years back on essentially the Hitler's willing executioners, which has had its critics because one of the things that Goldhagen kind of claims is this was part and parcel of that culture and that contributed to it. In other words, the Holocaust scholar that I was with this summer, James Waller, has a problem with it, and I think he's absolutely right. Is that because it undermines somewhat human freedom, and Waller's claim is that we can all do it. It isn't just German culture and history and the experience of the 19th and 20th century, but it can be done by anybody. Now, there's certainly factors that contribute to how we can do this. But nonetheless, Goldhagen does not mention it at all. Even on the Holocaust in Ukraine in general, not specifically dealing with the religious question or the role of the churches, there's very little written before 1990. There was a work done by Emanuel Ringelblum, who died as early as 1960, that dealt with a book that dealt with the Holocaust and the pogroms in Lviv immediately following the German invasion. So he had a very substantial piece on that. That was finally translated in English in 1990. And you also have had some other work dealing with Jews north of the Lviv Oblast. But Shmuel Spector's work deals with that. There are a lot of reasons that this hasn't happened. The most popular work is the work which is the documentary novel by Kuznetsov, Baba Yar, which deals with the story of a Jewish survivor, the few survivors of Baba Yar or Granny's Ravine. And that was one of the things that people were familiar with. And when people think about, when they think, therefore, about the Holocaust in Ukraine, they think of two things. They think about the pogroms around Lviv, and they think about Baba Yar, right? Those are the things that make that people are struck by. I think there are other factors. One is, the whole debate that Holocaust scholars deal with is the intentionalist versus functional piece. Was the Holocaust initially intended by the Nazis, or did it just come along and it was done by small decisions made at lower levels? I mean, there's that debate. There is what's called the Auschwitz syndrome. I mean, the focus is on the big camps. I don't want to go through all of those, but certainly Auschwitz, Birkenau, Sobibor, a few others. I mean, the focus is there. There is little in archives available. The Soviets did not open their archives until 1991. Even when the Soviets opened their archives, the Jews were not listed. They were listed only as peaceful Soviet citizens. This is what Bartov objects to in his book Erased. He looks at monuments in towns of victims of the Nazis, but it does not identify them as Jews. So he goes through. Bartov's work is very interesting because there's a tremendous amount of photos in there, not this kind of disturbing photos, but others of the remnants of synagogues and cemeteries. But again, the Soviets only refer to them as peaceful Soviet citizens or whatever that were killed by the Nazis, or if it was done by the Soviets, the Ukrainian nationalists. Okay, so there's that. There is the archive problem. And fourth, the linguistic demands. I mean, it is overwhelming. If you look at the map, you look at the languages that are spoken in this area. This was part of Poland, you know. Then it was taken by the Soviets, etc. I mean, you got Transcarpathian Mountain area in which you need to know Carpatho-Russian. Or Ruthenian, you need to certainly know Slovak. You need to know Hungarian, which is a language that God doesn't even know. It's so difficult, all right, and nobody knows, all right, you know. And then you have areas around. One of the kids in the house that I lived with when I was 2008 last fall was he would be on the phone with his mother, and my other housemates would say, you know, when Svetoslav talks to his mother, we don't have a clue whatever he's saying. It has nothing to do with any Ukrainian. All right. But you have these areas, and it's very difficult there. For the linguistic demands are overwhelming because the area, and they were all under different groups. So you got Romanians in one area, certainly in Bukovina and stuff. You have Romanian allies of the Nazis, etc. So you got this whole setup. So there's some problems here. Okay, so I'm working on a biography that is somewhat incomplete. Bartov certainly is something people should look at. Just came out, 2007. The Holocaust by Bullets was published only in 2008. All right? Okay. This is Dubois. This is him. He's getting an award in Israel. This is a slide from his book. If you look at the book, he does there's another book called The Holocaust in Ukraine. It's translated, show it here. It says literally Holocaust in Ukraine. It's done by scholars I have, but it's been just recently printed in English by the Indiana University. And here it is. Okay. It's a group of readings. It's probably the best thing available. There isn't a lot available. It's kind of neat when you're doing a topic where there's nothing there, because it limits your work and your expense for buying books. All right, this is another book, and I took the cover from Amazon.com, but it's certainly something I've read, Harvest of Despair, which deals with the life and death in Ukraine under the Nazis. It's more general. Kurt Lewin's book is out of print in English, but it's published in Ukrainian. It's a journey through illusions. It deals with his life. You can't see though. This is where he was kept. This is St. Yuri's Cathedral, where he was hidden by Metropolitan Andre. He certainly was a part of. He made money in Wall Street, whatever. So who is this? What American hero is this? Do you know? Well, John, I don't. Honest, I forget. Who's that, John? Alexander Hamilton. Is it? Okay. Stock Exchange? Who's outside the Stock Exchange? Is it Hamilton? I don't know. Not Washington. Who knows? Who is it, Diane? Washington. I didn't know that. See, I thought it was Hamilton or something. See, I didn't know that. Thank God you're here. You have 3 historians, and you know. All right. Okay. All right. Here's another book on Christian social ethics in Ukraine. This is written by Krawchuk, he's a historian. He's not a theologian, but he deals with Andrei Sheptypsky's work. Here's another book of readings. It's not a good photo. And here's Andrei Sheptypsky. Let's turn to Andrei Sheptypsky. Interesting guy. And I will finish this in 5 minutes. Sheptypsky, let me say some things, and I'll show you the slides afterwards. Sheptypsky was the focal point of my work, and he was the Metropolitan of Halychina, who amidst hatred among Ukrainians, Poles, Germans, Russians, and Jews, espoused a Christian patriotism for Ukraine based upon the concept of love that extends beyond ethnicity. All right. He is recognized as many Holocaust scholars as a righteous man and rescuer of Jews, but not yet by Yad Vashem. If it's any consolation to him for that, in order, he's not been canonized or beatified by the Roman Church either, and there are reasons for both. He stands out, scholars would say, in deep contrast to other persons, church persons. Berkhoff, in his work on The Harvest of Despair, contrasts Sheptypsky with other religious folks, particularly with the nationalist church in the same region, the Ukrainian autocephalous church. For example, in June of 1942, the archbishop of that church, the Ukrainian autocephalous Orthodox Church, Polakop Sokrovsky, declared in a statement his hostility not toward Muscovite Jewish communism and not against the Germans. I mean, so in other words, this is after the German defeat at Stalingrad. And he actually urged Ukrainians to go to Germany and work there. Raoul Hilberg, who wrote that 3-volume set on destruction of European Jewry, certainly one of the leading scholars in the area, acknowledges that, to be sure, Sheptypsky was a patriot, and he even welcomed the Nazis, no question about it. But he was horrified at the killing of Jews and participation of the Ukrainian militia in it. When Pius XII delivered a message to Sheptypsky after the invasion in August 1941, he urged him to bear adversity with serene patience. The Metropolitan is a typical Ukrainian, did not do that. He expressed outrage to the German collaborators, to officials, and to the Vatican itself. In a 1988 paper delivered at a conference at Oxford, Ben-Gurion University, Simon Redlich stated that compared with the churches and populations in Nazi-occupied Europe, Sheptypsky's statements and deeds on behalf of Jews place him among the humane and courageous minority who during the time of trial believed that they were their brothers and sisters. That's my keepers. I have found my research that in an area like Lviv, a city of Poles, Ukrainians, and Jews, that Sheptypsky's life and theology point us way beyond the chauvinism and too easy identification of people into friends and enemies. The us and them, that mentality. For Sheptypsky, the value and dignity of the human person led to choices other than murder. To be sure, he's a complex figure. On the one hand, he was accused of being partial to Jews. So how does he respond? He was actually accused of being a Judaizer, very much like in the Pauline text. You remember the debate in the early church. He responded in the language of supersessionism, saying that he was going to be all things to all people, and therefore he would begin his dialogue with Jews with the Jewish text. So on the one hand, he certainly was a secessionist. There's no question about it. Christianity replaces Judaism as the fulfillment of biblical Judaism. So he was in that whole Christian strain. And as a hierarchy, supported the presence of chaplains among Ukrainian Galician SS troops, no question. On the other hand, Sheptypsky, already noted, has been praised for his work in saving Jews through monasteries in Ukraine and the stern, clearly implied condemnation of the Jewish persecution and murder in general in his pastoral letter, Thou Shalt Not Kill. The ethnic conflict in Western Ukraine led him to advocate a patriotism or love of nation other than nationalistic hatred and genocide. In 1943, he wrote, pagan patriotism of love of one's own with hatred of all others, but Christian love of one's native land by embracing all peoples unites Christians with their opponents and enemies and gives their patriotism the freedom or foundation it needs. It teaches unity. There's much to be said here. I don't want to belabor that. What's about 20 after? I'm going to kind of stop, and I have kind of slides. I'll just go through these quickly. Here's some things I was going to talk about. He's conflicted. He's a conflicted hero. But so is Bonhoeffer, by the way. There's a new book by Vicki Barnett at the Holocaust Museum that looks at Dietrich Bonhoeffer. When he was in prison, he didn't know what to do. Chad, I know you could speak to that much better than I. So here's some things I mentioned. I'm not getting into any of this, as usual. All right. So here are two sources that I find interesting. One is the Holocaust Center in Kyiv, and the other is the Institute of Religion and Society at the Ukrainian Catholic University, which both are helping. This is one of my own photos. This is at the remnants of a village in the village of Stry. It's a town. It's not a village. I took this. And this is a remnant of synagogue. Bartov wants the government to rebuild all synagogues. The problem is there's no congregations. Here's again cemetery things. Here's one people searching for things. As Dubois will note, you're looking for bullets. He does it in his book. He talks about you're looking for bullets. You're looking for any indication of stuff. And as you try to collaborate the massacre, this is Ukrainian nationalism. Actually, this is, I know the site real well, but this is very much something that's part of parcel of the country, and you see this appeal to this. One of my students actually in a Galician SS uniform in a movie that was done by the Russians, by the way. Interesting, not Ukrainians. Maybe the Ukrainians don't have any money to produce movies, but it was about this done by the Russians. This is Roman Roboski. Here's an UPA bar. Which was a bar that dealt with that basically was an underground thing. You had to go in there and they give you a shot, and then they, the guys at the door, and they said, "Are you Russian or whatever?" No, so you can come in. Actually, it was amazing because it's not. I've seen African Americans in there, Africans in there too. This is the cathedral where Jews were hid, St. Joris. All right, cathedral in. This is Sofisky Sobor in Kiev and a few other things. All right, I'm not going to do much of this. Here it is. Okay. All right. Any comments? I'm sorry for keeping you so long. Yeah, go ahead, Glenn.
He was supportive of the Germans coming.
Yeah, he was. Then he changed.
Because he thought they would defend the nationalism.
Exactly. He was anti-Soviet. And in other words, when they saw the Germans coming in, again, this is Pius XII's thing too, right? He's so anti-communist. That, and again, I think his legacy is debated. I think legitimately so. But the anti-communism was so prevalent among church folks, and seeing the effects of communism, I can understand why. He did support the Germans coming in. They changed him. I said the Germans are worse than the Soviets. So he changed his position on that. He changed his position on a couple things. He in one sense, and I didn't talk about it, but there's a slide in here that talks about the passage in Matthew was he's arguing with the rabbi, and he's trying to identify the rabbi, and he's sensitive to the rabbi, and he says, now what do you expect? Remember the passage in Matthew, your blood will be on us and your children, you'll be on us and our children. And then Sheptypsky immediately apologizes, said that was inappropriate, very inappropriate for me to say that. So he certainly was a conflicted hero rescuer because and that's maybe one reason why he's never been called righteous of the nations, because they saw he certainly was welcomed. I mean, he did not bless necessarily Nazi troops, but certainly one of his bishops supposedly did, and secondly supplied chaplains for the Galician SS. Yeah, but he did change his position. No question about it. And that's why in the Jewish community, if you look at Jewish scholars, that's the ones I trust. I don't trust, we flaming papist scholars, but I do trust the Jewish scholars on this. This consensus is that, comparatively speaking, he's about the best of the lot because they're all pretty bad. I mean, they were all bad, but Sheptypsky, without a doubt, was about one of the best. Other questions or comments before we break? And I appreciate you coming. And I know this is a busy week. Anyone want to? I have some handouts if anybody wants them. There's some maps. There's maps of the area and a few other things. There's the kind of chronology of the Holocaust, and you'll see specifically this occurs first, and then later other things. Was there,
you're talking basically about the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Was it similar in Belarus?
Yes, I would. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know. But that area was all in a certain same. All part of the area. So in other words, it's that whole area. Certainly, it's northwest of there. But if you saw Defiance, you may have seen the film if you didn't read the book. But there were certainly similarities because all of those areas were under Poland, as you know, right? And then they were part of. And then when the Soviets came in, they took them all. So the same kind of reaction. There's a mixture there, too, a mixture of folks. Yeah, I did not, and I don't know if anyone's done anything specifically on Belarus. I don't know.
Well, my roots go back there.
The Belarus. Where were you from? Where are you from? Minsk? Okay.
And so I'm always sort of partial to that.
Yeah. Actually, I saw at Barnes & Noble the book Defiances, and I saw the film, and I didn't read the book. Anyone see that? And it's kind of popular. You saw it? Actually read the book. It's actually I thought it was good. Again, but there's anti-Semitism among the partisan army too, huh? There's no question about it. I mean, you look at that. I mean, so in other words, the image is that the Ukrainians and the Poles are the bad guys. It is the Russian communists who are good guys in a sense, and that in theory in their documents they support equality of everybody, but it's much more complicated than that.
This ultimately goes back to Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
There's no picnic then either.
Oh, there's no picnic then either. Yeah. Yeah, there's no picnic then either. There's never been a picnic there, and yet the area, if you look at the number of Polish, if you look at that is it 4.5 or Polish or Eastern European Jews that were killed. Just look at the stats. It's all here, right? It's not in Germany. How many were Germans? Well, a couple 100,000. I mean, you look at the French, you look at Western Europe. All the Holocaust is this area. It's not the other area. It's this area. No question about it. Yeah. Go ahead. I was looking at that. I haven't done anything with it. I'd like to go to the Holocaust Museum in January before the semester starts, if I get the opportunity. The only thing I'm not a Holocaust scholar. The only thing I have going for me is nobody else knows even enough Ukraine to say where's the bathroom and how do I order coffee and whatever. I mean, the only thing for Americans, because nobody knows this area. And actually, it's one of these areas where even the Holocaust scholars, I mean, like Bartov doesn't even know the language. So that's the only thing I got going for me. So what I'm doing is I'm studying the language once a week. So it's much easier to read this stuff than to speak it anyway. So I will do that. I'll do that for you. Sure. All right. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. There. Oh, there's plenty of handouts here, different types. Yeah, there's all kind of handouts. Well, no, thank you. Well, I heard who's the girl that went to St. Catholic Central? Okay. But was she